What is going on, everybody? We're here. We're live. Yes, I am a little late. Yes, I did remember to, well, actually, I didn't remember to change my clocks, but I am on daylight savings time now. I got to be honest, I totally forgot about daylight savings time. I wasn't even thinking about it. Wasn't a thought in my head. I went to bed last night, probably a little bit later than I should have. And I had to wake up fairly early in the morning. And I woke up and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong? Like, this makes absolutely no sense. Why am I so damn tired? And then I checked my sleep because I track my sleep on my watch and I always kind of want to see where I'm at, like what was going on. And it's like, it said I fell asleep an hour later than I knew I fell asleep at. I'm like, there's no way. Was something wrong with my watch? Why does it say I only slept this long? And then I go downstairs and I see the microwave clock and I realize I'm fucking retarded. Daylight savings time. Isn't even spring yet, though. Why are we springing forward? I don't feel like it's spring. When is the first day of spring? When is the first day of spring? It's not for another 2 weeks. No wonder. No wonder I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't expecting it. Ryan, have you dyed your hair? I have not dyed my hair. My hair is brown. I have recently adjusted my... So you guys were complaining about how washed out it looked, all that. I cannot get the lighting right for the life of me. So instead, what I did was I just started adjusting, my camera shit. And I'll just have to do that depending on what the current light is. Like white balance, all that kind of stuff. Getting very, very professional over here. But no, I have not, nor ever will I dye my hair. I haven't really seen a gray hair. That's not true. I see one gray hair in my beard every once in a while that just is there. But I haven't seen one in my head yet, and I don't really care. If I lose all my hair at some point, that's fine. If it goes gray, that's fine too. No big deal. But welcome to the stream. As you guys may or may not know, this was supposed to happen last week. I unfortunately ran into some vehicular problems last week, so I had to cancel this stream very, very unfortunately. But we are back. And if you guys don't know, this is the stream we do every month for the top tier supporters. So top tier channel members, top tier Patreon members, stuff like that, where instead of just listening to me, you get to listen to everybody. Everybody that are big supporters of me, and I appreciate those guys. And this is kind of our time, 90 minutes over here on the RK Outpost live channel. Just kind of hang out and shoot the shit and talk about the goings on in pop culture without just listening to me rant or try to cut a video. So without any further ado, Star Wars Marvel purist, what's up, man?
What's going on, Ryan? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing solid. Thanks for being here, man. We've also got Lore Master Chris. What's up, Chris?
Hey, guys. I just want to say Doomcock was right the whole time. She's finally gone.
Oh, yeah. All those reports that he said 7 years ago about her stepping down at the end of 2025, those were all 100% accuraed. Yes, thank you.
Well, the thing is, like, he kept saying she's going eventually, someday, it's coming soon. And when you mill rumors like that, eventually you'll be right.
I suppose that's the case. We've also got Gabriel Knight. What's up, Gabriel?
Not a whole lot. I'm also struggling with the time chains, but I'm going to power through it. But as a side note, for me, it's one of the best times of the year because we're on the cusp of March Madness starting in 4 weeks. Looking forward to that.
March Madness gearing up. Conference tournaments this week. Yes. It's going to be awesome. And we've also got someone who is probably not struggling with the time change for him, but for everyone else, because he lives in Arizona. Biggles Mets.
Muted.
Who is muted? We'll wait. It's okay.
I'm not muted. StreamYard's changed my fucking settings.
Correct. Yeah, you didn't have the mic selected or whatever. But what's up, man?
What's up? I am not struggling with daylight savings time because that doesn't exist here. And but I did have a clock in the room that I'm staying in tell me it was a different time. So I was like, fuck yeah, I got an extra hour of sleep. And then I looked at my phone and I was like, I don't know how to change this clock, so it's going to be an hour wrong.
Is it one of those clocks you just plug into the wall and it like moves?
You have to like click Mountain, Pacific, Eastern, or Central, but it doesn't have Arizona time.
Does it have Arizona time? Yeah.
So I have to change it anyways, but I'm just like, yeah, fuck it. I don't know how this clock works, so I'm not going to. And I see someone saying the Mets suck. Fuck you. That's all I have to say.
The truth is I don't mind daylight savings time really at all. It only affects me one day out of the year in a negative way. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
that is the only time, and it's between a Saturday and a Sunday. It is what it is. And truth be told, if this had happened back when I was in the military, man, you wanted to be on watch during daylight savings time. You wanted to be on that watch where the clock jumped forward and you lost an hour of your shift. That was fantastic. Didn't really want to be on the other end where you had to do the same hour over again. That wasn't fun. That
sounds awful. But I do like this time zone better because I get baseball earlier. So it's good. And I can go to bed sooner.
We can move to California and get the same thing.
Why the fuck would I want to do that? That sounds like an awful thing to do. And then I'd have to remember what day daylight savings time is. That sounds fucking awful.
Well, there you have it. But yes, thank you guys for joining me. Obviously, I guess one of the big things I want to get to right away is this Black Snape bullshit. I expected something in the Harry Potter series. I thought the big fight was going to be about Hermione, who, even though clearly not described in the books as being black, was cast for black as a stage play. And J.K. Rowling weighed in on that like 8 or 10 years ago for Cursed Child. And she essentially said, well, I never explicitly said Hermione was white, so I'm okay with a black Hermione for the stage play. That was pretty much her statement on it, which is bullshit. Hermione is, even though it doesn't say Hermione is Caucasian in the same way it doesn't say Snape is Caucasian, there are different lines that say different things, specifically about how often Hermione blushes, and literally Hermione turned pink in embarrassment because of this. I don't know about you guys. I ain't seen too many black folks turn pink, but that's just me. I expected the fight would be over that. I did not expect for them to take one of the ugly, nastiest characters in the books that has a very complex storyline in Snape and turn him black. No way in hell I ever thought that this would be the case. But this hasn't been announced or confirmed by HBO or anything. But because of the reporting and because it came from the same people that reported about John Lithgow as Dumbledore, which was later confirmed, it's essentially being passed everywhere, that Papa Asiatu has been cast as Severus Snape. And
that scene of when James and Severus hanging from the tree is going to look awkward now.
Yeah. It's going to recontextualize so many things. The fact that Snape is bullied and looked down upon because he's poor, because of where he comes from, because he has a Muggle father. All of these things are now going to also be about the fact that he is black. James and Sirius bullying Snape, literally hanging him upside down underneath a tree, not necessarily from the tree, but underneath a tree. And when Lily asked James, like, what's your problem with him? What's your problem with Snape? And like, why do you hate him? And James is like, well, it's really just because he exists, quite frankly. Like, all of this stuff is now going to be recontextualized. This is one of the most blatant bullshit race swaps we've ever seen in history. And it actually does drive me nuts. It pisses me the fuck off.
Yeah, I mean, And it's quite surprising, like, honestly, how many people I've seen that are like actively rejecting this. I thought there was going to be a much bigger like contingency of people that just go, "You guys are just a bunch of racists and whatnot." But I haven't really seen that. Like, everyone is pissed off about this.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's definitely replied people that are like, well, you know, it never explicitly says his race. Do you just think that because that's how you saw it when you read it? Are you just that racist? There's a handful of people that are doing that, but you're not wrong.
Because it's not like J.K. Rowling has like sketches of Snape showing exactly what he looks like.
And there's a large contingent of just the general Harry Potter fandom. Some people are excited about it, whatever. But there's a large contingent of people out there that are not what I would describe on my side politically, who usually don't get involved in these types of like culture war things, that are like, look, I'm sure the guy's a great actor, and you know, maybe you could do some other things in here, but Snape should not be black. Like, you should not have race swapped this specific character. This is the exact wrong person to do it to. And I happen to agree wholeheartedly.
Somebody in the chat just said it. Isn't he the Half-Blood Prince, Snape?
He is.
Yeah, he's a filthy half-blood.
Yeah, now he's the Half-Blood Prince of Bel-Air.
Well, it's one of the nice things about to me, it's one of the nice things about Harry Potter is that, right, racism doesn't exist in the world. It doesn't matter. There's only a handful of people of color in the UK at that given time point anyway, and this is when it's set, and that's where it's set. But they have magical blood as essentially the bigotry of the world, period, right? You have people that put a really high stock in being pure blood. You have people that judge other people for being muggle-born or even half-blood wizards, things like that. And that can take the place of a variety of different things that have happened all throughout history, right? It's not necessarily just pointing to one thing or another. You can call back to, some people say, oh, it's inspired by Nazis. Some people could say, well, that's relevant of the way black people were treated, right? It can be anything, right? There's no set time period for that. There's no modern event that it's like, this is this, right? It is over the course of history, you could compare it to possibly anything involving some kind of bigotry in some way, shape, or form. But that is the bigotry that exists in the world, period. With this casting, it's going to be very hard to not recontextualize a bunch of things that we know happen in this series from that frame. And this guy was cast because he's black. Like, the bottom line, that's why it's fucking happened. Yeah. Period. There's no other rhyme or reason. You can't tell me that this guy is the best guy for the role. He doesn't look like him. So one, that discounts him immediately. And especially now that you've decided it's perfectly acceptable to cast Americans as well. Because that's what they've done with John excuse me. With John Lithgow, they cast him as Dumbledore, which opens it up now to American actors. It's the biggest line of bullshit I've ever seen, especially when they promised a faithful adaptation. It pisses me the fuck off.
They always do it to the most popular character. It's a marketing like ploy, right? Even though it always gets the negative results. But it's going to ruin like all the writing, right? Because now they're going to focus on this. People are going to focus on this. It's obvious they're not going to be telling the story as it should be told.
Yeah, and when they do stuff like this, it just it sets the precedent. What else are they going to change? If they're willing to change this, what else are they willing to change? Because it's really annoying. Because, like, again, Snape is described very thoroughly in the books, as is a lot of characters, and it's not like Harry Potter is lacking in diversity. I mean, Dean Thomas exists, Kingsley. The one Asian in Britain, and they call her like Cho Chang or whatever her name is. Like, we don't need this. And it's very clearly done as a publicity stunt just to egg people on.
Well, here's what I think, right? None of these things have been announced by Warner Brothers at all. These are all coming out because of leaks within Warner Brothers. I imagine that they fully intended, and they probably still will at some point when they cast everyone, to do a big announcement, right? Dumbledore, McGonagall, Snape, Hagrid, Harry, Ron, Hermione, right? Like, and just do the full cast release. And certainly a lot of attention would be paid to this, but there would also be a lot more to talk about with some of the other characters. That's probably what I think their intention would have been from the release. And they thought, well, maybe we can weather the backlash and there would be so much stuff to talk about. But it's such a tone deaf decision. And like I said, I fully expected in modern day, with this being made by current Warner Brothers, for them to have, you know, oh, Professor Sprout is really a black woman or something. I would have rolled my eyes, probably would have talked about it once, and it probably wouldn't have been a very big deal. You're taking one of the most important characters and you're completely recontextualizing everything that happens to him when you make a decision like this. And I do not know. I have no idea how close J.K. Rowling is in the creation of this. They said, hey, she's going to be involved. She's going to be very involved in the process. I haven't seen her say anything yet. I haven't heard her say anything about John Lithgow as Dumbledore. I haven't seen her respond to this at all. So I don't know. I'm sure she's going to have something to say about it at some point. But we also know, like this one is way different than Hermione. The Hermione one, she put a couple things out there. She said, well, I guess I never really described her as this, so I'm okay with Black Hermione. This is a different story. This character is described in detail more than almost any other character in the books in terms of the way that they look. Other than maybe like Harry, maybe Harry, Hagrid, Dumbledore, maybe them, but like Snape is described repeatedly as a white man. And Reefer's keyboard is really fucking loud.
Was that Reefer?
No, I think that might be mine.
Oh,
That
really?
was
Is it
not
you,
me.
Biggles?
Yeah, but I have the light switches, so it shouldn't be really loud. But then again,
It's loud.
I'm in a whole different area, so I'll mute it when I do that.
It sounds like you're on a fucking typewriter. But yes. And welcome to the stream, John Getz and Sir Reefer.
Hey.
Are we fashionably late? Is that what's happening?
Just a touch. 20 minutes. I would say that's fashionable.
You're just
All I
late.
know is if they recast Mara Jade with Zendaya as a ginger, I'm going to be extremely offended.
John, are you out and about on your phone or something?
I am actually. Is it noticeable?
Just a little bit. The quality of your voice isn't great, but yeah. What are you doing?
I'm actually coming back from a trade show that I'm working down in Pittsburgh, so yeah, just got a little bit of time to get back here. But yeah, I don't know. Just was listening in before I got out of there, and yeah, I can't wait for Ncuti Gatwa to be cast as Ryan Kinel in the RK Outpost movie.
Well, look, if there's ever a desire to make an RK Outpost movie, that'll be something. I don't think I'll sign my rights away to be played by a black man, though. I don't think there'll be too much desire for that.
They might trade you off and say, but Mr. Kinel, think of how many videos on your own channel you can make about how pissed off you are about this. It'll be a quid pro quo.
Thumbnails with red eyes.
I think this kind of like discredits a lot of the fake news you have that DEI is dead and hey, everything's gonna change because they're not filming yet. Like we're still in the casting process and all that. So if they were these companies were in this big hurry to throw DEI away and start making normal shit again, why wouldn't they be doing it? I know everybody says it takes 3 years. It doesn't take 3 years when you're still casting people,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and even like if they say it's going away, they'll just rebrand it.
Yeah, rebrand it.
I was going to say that's exactly what's happening. Is it's just being rebranded in new corpo speak. That's all it is.
Even DUI or DEI is rebranding. It used to be called affirmative action.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like global warming became global cooling, became climate change. You know, I mean, it was global cooling in the 70s. They just keep changing the name so they can push communism.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's just commie gobbledygook.
You know what they should do with this new Harry Potter show since they've casted Snape as black? They should cast Lily and James as white and then Harry as black and then have the Dudleys fucking hate him because he's a black kid. And then
he's actually
it's
Snape.
actual Snape's kid. Yeah, that's what they should do. If they do that, I'm all for this. I think that would be hilarious.
Just go full mid 2000s parody movie.
Yeah,
like
basically.
Dragonfly.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. At this point, just go like full parody. Just don't even try to take it seriously. Say like, "Oh yeah, we're just gonna turn everyone. We're gonna turn the Weasleys black for all because they're poor."
Once again,
Sure,
that's
I
going to be
get it.
ginger rage if that happens. You know, we don't have souls. You can't also take away all of our movie roles.
Well, look, Snape is that way as well, right? Snape is poor. He comes from a shitty fucking neighborhood, and people judge him for where he comes from. He's got like tattered robes and shit like that, and people make fun of him in school for it. He's ugly as shit. So, like, all of those things are now going to be done against like the one black dude that's around in the cast. I mean, maybe there'll be a million black dudes. We don't know.
Gonna
Maybe
say
this will just be like
they're just gonna Hogwarts legacy it and make sure that it's like 20% white people.
Yeah, maybe this will just be the Hogwarts Society of Magical Negroes. Like maybe that's what they'll do with this thing. I don't know.
Well,
go ahead, Biggles.
I was going to say, since they like casting gingers, watch the whole Weasleys be black and just have like red hair.
Yeah, that
Another very, very poor family.
the ginger side is very much real. That's why when we started hearing all these BS rumors about Mara Jade, everyone just assumed, oh, Zendaya, because that's the most predictable thing to do. Just take the redhead and race swap her.
And to just force Zendaya into everything ever imaginable, even though nobody ever asked for her.
Well, luckily she's too old to play Hermione, so that won't be happening. But at this point, after this one, it's almost a foregone conclusion that we're going to get little black girl Hermione, at least in my mind. And when it comes to all the DEI stuff, yeah, obviously all of these companies are backing away from publicly being supportive of that or taking this out and taking this part out of their company or whatever. To me, that's not indicative of necessarily them changing. That's indicative of them realizing that this is cancerous to the public to brag about these things.
The ideology has not taken
right,
root
but that doesn't mean the
enough root.
ideology has changed, and it doesn't mean they're going to stop. What you have to look for are the actions that happen. Now, when you look at things, and I do think you can look at what Disney did recently with that Pixar show that they put out on Disney Plus, where they had originally planned to have a transgendered child and an entire episode dedicated to this story arc about this trans kid playing on a girls' softball team and having a bathroom encounter, like all this weird, insane, vile shit to include in a children's show. And they axed that, right? They axed that, they removed that. And that's not because I think that they are just like, oh, this would be horrible to show to children. I think they probably realize what a bad look it would have been, and we desperately need to get some families back. But that is one thing you point to. It's like, okay, that's actually something that they did because they realized how bad this would look. But everyone else, you're going, and Disney as well with a lot of other things, you have to show something. You can't just say we're trying to stay out of the culture war. You can't just say, hey, we're getting rid of our DEI thing. You can remove it. You can stop advertising about it. But if you're still taking the same actions, it's going to be the same results. And
like Bob Iger saying we're going to like trim down the amount of projects they do, and they end up producing pretty much the same as usual.
Yeah, and when Warner Brothers came out and talked about their Harry Potter casting search, and they said, "Hey, we're committed to seeing everybody and giving everybody an opportunity and diverse casting, blah blah blah." I was like, "Okay, I don't like the sound of that, but it also may be legally required to say that depending on where they're casting, and we'll see what happens." Well, now we've seen what happens, and it's just more bullshit.
Well, just have Bob Iger shoot a hostage video like Bob Chapek had to do, only in the reverse. And then maybe I'll start to believe you. Have him like apologize and say that they're going to change and announce a complete reversal to the public. Because you were fine doing it that way. So whenever he just wanted to stay out of it.
Yeah, Bob Chapek was like, we don't want to be used as a political football. Oh, by the way, I'm going to bend my knee and suck a big rainbow-colored dildo to show how much I love the queers. That is basically what Bob Iger did. Rabid one for $10 says Astros are greater than an asterisk. So you mean the Astros are cheaters, but they're still good? Is that what that means?
He's saying how great Astrobot is.
Dude,
Astro is. Yeah.
Oh,
That
play
to
ball.
me that to me just looks like he's saying Astros are awesome. And
I know he's probably
ready
saying
for
Astros
baseball.
are greater than insert team here.
Yeah.
But if he's an Astros fan, I got to give him a little shit, or at least a little trash.
Listen,
Yeah,
I
they're
hate
trash
the
fan, they use
I hate the Astros for my own reasons, but they aren't cheaters. All they were doing was stealing signs. That's part of the game.
Well, hold on.
Yes, it is.
Hold on. Stealing signs 100% is part of a game.
Oh yeah.
From second base.
Stealing signs using a camera that is zoomed in on the catcher to in real time show in the back of the dugout to then hit a trash can to signal the hitter at the plate in real time.
Is that what they were doing?
That's what they were doing. Yes.
Holy fuck! I didn't read that much into it.
Yes. So, little baseball aside, the Houston Astros, they had a live feed of a camera that was zoomed in on the catcher, right? High definition feed, zoomed in on the catcher to get the sign, which was then relayed into essentially a closet in between the dugout and the locker room. And then if it was a fastball, they'd knock once. If it was off speed, they'd knock twice on a trash can to alert the hitter what it was.
That's just lazy. I retract my statement.
Yeah. So stealing. Look, if you're sitting there at second base and you understand what the catcher's doing, of course you can start giving tips. Like that is part of the game. Using technology and live feeds to instantaneously, that's bullshit. That's bullshit.
Yeah, and if you get caught stealing signs from second base, it used to get your batter pegged. So they try not to get caught stealing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they get hit. And now they don't hit because they get on base, and now they have to worry about a runner. And most pitchers seem to suck with runners on base now. So you don't see people getting pegged for stealing signs as much.
Now, I think that everybody is doing everything they can, some up to the letter of the law and some a little bit past it to get an advantage. And it doesn't really bother me that much. But that is what they did. And none of the players ever got fucking punished for it. Only the GM and the coach. So,
I guess it
Jens,
depends on,
casting Black Snape just lost them their entire Asian market, says
Now
Jens.
they gotta shrink him on the Chinese poster.
Bro, he's gonna look so fucking wacky if they put him in a big wig with like long greasy hair. Are they gonna give him a prosthetic nose? Like,
I'm loving all the memes that people are posting about the news.
oh, it's great. Like there's so many things, and this is what happens when you change people's races like this. I can't wait to see 7 years of Harry being like suspicious for no reason of Snape other than he looks like he's up to no good, and Harry's suspicious of him, and then he goes on to become a magical police officer. It's gonna be great.
Well, then Dumbledore is going to be hitting on every male professor, I'm sure.
I think they should have cast Cat
100%.
Williams. I think the hair would have been more accurate.
He looks more like him technically.
And speaking of Dumbledore, the idea of Lord Farquaad playing Dumbledore is hilarious to me.
I think John Lithgow will actually do a good job. I think he's a really good actor, and he does a very good British accent.
And personally, like, I don't mind American actors playing like traditional British characters, because we see British actors playing American characters all the time. Like Daniel Day-Lewis once played Lincoln for.
Well, I don't really have a problem with it either. It just shows a change from what they were doing with the movies, right? In the movies, that was a mandate that was out there from J.K. Rowling. And that's, again, why I say I am a little curious as to know exactly how involved she is in this, because that's the first casting we get, and it's already completely backwards from the rules that were established for these movies, you know, when they were made in the early 2000s. And that was one. It was, you know, we're going to do all British actors, period. Obviously not the case anymore.
Well, since they're casting Americans, I would like to see Hagrid be played by Adam Sandler. I'll watch it.
Wow.
I would fucking hate that. So
I would watch it every day.
Oh. Rob Cortez.
Wilson is serious.
They need to remake the Ladybugs. We'll see, Rob.
That's the movie with Rodney Dangerfield where the son plays soccer on the girls' team. If you didn't know.
Instead they'll have a bunch of trannies running around now.
Simon says, bro, if Snape is black, that obviously won't happen. Stop with these BS stereotypes. It's 2025 and we need a new look for the show and characters. Grow up. Are you talking to me? We need a new look? No. The reason you're doing a Harry Potter series, Simon, is because of the books, because the books are fucking popular. That's why you're redoing this series. And this gives the opportunity to do everything that should be adapted in those books, from the way the characters look, to all of the different side plots, to all the different storylines, to all the things that were left out of the movies, which, while are beloved by a lot of people, it's also understood that they have limitations being movies, and they had to cut a lot of shit out, a lot of things that fans actually like. The reason you're adapting Harry Potter is because of the Harry Potter books. So you should do exactly what's in those books in every way, shape, or form. No, people don't need a new look. People don't need a fucking magical Negro Snape. They don't need that, nor do they want that. They want the exact opposite. They want a more accurate portrayal of Snape, because as much as I love Alan Rickman and thought he did a great job with what he was asked to do, even he is not a perfect one-to-one of what the book Snape is. One, he's too old. Two, he's probably too traditionally handsome to play the character. Snape should be way uglier than Alan Rickman is.
Also, just want to say, Simon, you might want to get rid of that Punisher avatar, because that's an alt-right hero.
That's right.
Also, I love how he says it's 2025. Like, that's what all these SJWs love to do, is like, it's 2025. We need to change it. No, if anything, the fact that the books are still popular today goes to show that you don't need to change it. And if you're so desperate to like create like more diverse ranges of characters, I got a suggestion for you. Make your own stories instead of like constantly rehashing old stories.
But those aren't popular enough. No.
And also, with the characters that do exist in this story, give them their due, right? Give them the time that they deserve, like Dean Thomas, like Kingsley Shacklebolt. I wouldn't want them to make Kingsley Shacklebolt some fucking Mexican dude or a white dude. I want Kingsley Shacklebolt to be a big, burly, powerful black wizard. That's who I want him to be, because that's who he is in the books. And he's awesome. He's not a main character. He's a side character. But he has a lot more to do with everything that's going on in the books than we get to see of him in the movies. In fact, he's one of the last three people that are standing there fighting Voldemort at the very fucking end in what should have been, what we should have got to see, that last confrontation between Harry and Dumbledore. Dean Thomas becomes a very important character, especially in the last several books. And like those are the characters that exist in this world that you should give their due to them. You should have them be as important as they were in the books in this series. And I wouldn't want to see them race swapped.
Justin Trudeau is going to be unemployed pretty soon, and he's comfortable doing blackface, so he could be Kingsley.
Oh yeah, now China's imposing tariffs on Canada.
Ryan is diversity officer. I am the diversity officer. Little Orphan Funkhauser for 2. The emo Jimmy Butler as Snape meme is top tier. It kind of is.
It is pretty top tier.
It kind of is. It kind of is. But let's move on to something else. I don't know how many people here have seen Daredevil Born Again first couple episodes.
Yeah, I've seen.
I have not.
I have. I will say Simon's retarded take on Harry Potter, but he probably isn't wrong on the Punisher shit, because they are gonna fuck Punisher up in this show. Signs are everywhere.
Yeah, I think so. Let's talk about it a little bit. And I guess since not everyone's watched it here, we'll try to keep it. There's not really many spoilers, I guess, because I feel like it was pretty. I feel like
the main spoiler is
obvious.
probably in everyone's thumbnaml by now, right?
Yeah, I feel like it was pretty obvious even before this series what they were going to do. I just didn't necessarily expect it to happen so quickly.
Yeah, the fist sex change. I did not see that coming personally, but
yeah, exactly. But I know you have very strong thoughts on it, Star Wars Marvel purist. For me, I thought that the first 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again were very meh. There were some things that I enjoyed about it here and there. There were some things that I disliked about it. I have some worries about where this could go. I also do have some ideas in my head of where it could go if they do it, what I think could be cool and good. And I would really like it if they did these things. But it's only 2 episodes, so I really don't know if I can say it's going one way or the other yet. However, there are a lot of warning signs. I personally think that this is going to be a story of Daredevil trying not to be Daredevil, Kingpin trying not to be Kingpin, and both of them end up embracing those very same things, and we see a big face-off again. That's kind of what I think it's going to be. But you're right about the Punisher stuff. They've already showed Dirty Cops having the Punisher sign. That's going to be a big part of what they do going forward, and that worries me, especially with the way that season 2 of Punisher went on the Netflix series, that they're going to be driving like even more hard into that type of story, which is just annoying as fuck. But what do you think about it, Star Wars Marvel purist?
Well, I mean, I'd probably give it a 4 out of 10. I'm even thinking of giving it a 3 out of 10. And I mean, I know a lot of people think that's harsh, but it's a lot of rehashed storylines. They bait and switched all the fan base with Karen Page and Foggy. They kill Foggy in the first 15 minutes. They write Karen out of the story fucking immediately. Although she wants to sleep with Matt 5 minutes in, then she doesn't want to talk to him anymore after they have a tragic loss, of their friend and partner in the firm. There's all kinds of freaking MCU shit going on. I don't know if people know, but Sana Amanat, the creator of Ms. Marvel, she's the executive producer on the fucking show. Same person all kinds of people used to complain about that was getting involved in the MCU. She's still there. So they've gotten rid of Nate Moore, Victoria Alonso. People claim Marvel's changing, but you got Sana Amanat in there. They did a thing with her and the writer. The writer, people tout, he wrote some Jack Ryan and some Punisher. 2 of the Punisher episodes were season 2, which were trash. 2 of the episodes were Punisher season 1, and then he wrote, I think, 2 total Jack Ryan episodes, like season 4 or something like that. I didn't get that far into that show, so not sure how that turned out. But the Punisher thing, it's definitely to tear down the iconography of Punisher, because a lot of military personnel, police officers, etc., pay homage to that, and they don't like it. Even Jerry Conway, the creator of Punisher, he's on record, I think it was back in 18 or 19, saying they need to change it. And that's when Jason Aaron did the famous Punisher symbol switch. We took his guns away. We gave him katana blades. We made him the fucking leader of the Hand. And actually some storylines that tie into the Charles Soule Muse character can actually transition the show to go that way with the Punisher character. because it has to do with the beast Crowlig. It's like it's the demonic leader of the Hand, like, and they start expanding on that more in modern comics, where it was more mysticism, not revealed secrecy stuff with Frank Miller's Daredevil. So yeah, it just depends how far are they going to go. Are we going just Punisher's going to condemn and talk shit about police officers that are using his symbol, or are we going to get the full on, let's change him up and make him a completely different character? And yeah, I mean, I don't know. And it seems like he's right back to where he was in season 1 of Punisher as well. So again, we're just regurgitating the same kind of thing. So now he's down and out. Like all these masculine superheroes all have to like get knocked down 2, 3, 4 times instead of just being heroic.
So here, I was actually going to make a joke about Punisher going to England and switching to knives or whatever, renouncing guns. They actually fucking did that in the comic. They made him start using katanas.
Yeah, Jason Aaron. Yeah, and they make him the leader of the Hand. But what's even worse about that, and that, this is already going on in the series too, he finds out because basically he uses the Hand to resurrect his fucking wife, right? And then he finds out his wife was going to leave him anyways before she gets gunned down in the park and fucking in the origin story of Punisher. So it cucks the whole fucking origin of Punisher. And then she shoots his ass and tries to kill him at the end of the comic arc, only for him to be scolded by Black Widow and some others, if I'm remembering correctly, about what a piece of shit that he is. So we could be headed there. Tying into that, Kingpin's literally cut. People think Kingpin was cucked in Hawkeye or cucked in Echo. His wife literally talks about, he tells her he knows that she's fucking some other dude, and he's totally cool with it. Then they go to couples therapy. We learn that she's the Queen Pin. She actually runs the Empire better than he ever could. Like,
yeah,
it's
so basically
the
whole thing
shit.
is Wilson Fisk has been, it seems like years that he's been gone, but we don't really know, I guess. And that's one of the problems, too, is we don't know how Wilson Fisk got out of prison.
Yeah. By manipulating the entire FBI and turning FBI agents into mass murderers.
Right. And I'm not to say, it's not to say that they can't come up with a way to explain that away. However, that probably should have been done already when he was introduced in Hawkeye. Now, when he was introduced in Hawkeye, in the Hawkeye series, we didn't actually know if they were going to do anything to link it to Daredevil, like the Netflix series, right? So the question was out there, but nobody really knew that for sure or not. But they didn't really explain that in any way other than he like took advantage of a prisoner transfer thing. Okay, you could escape from prison. You can have criminals escape from prison. It's different to have a criminal escape from prison versus then be running for public office and all of this stuff. I think a lot of work would need to be done to convince me that this could happen. And you could convince me that this could happen if you show the way that he did it and the people that he bribed or the people that he killed to get to this point. That's fine with me. I could believe it, but you have to do a little bit to show me that, which probably should have already been done before in the MCU, before this series.
Yeah, and the it's in the comic shit. Like, people just cherry pick that. Like, contextually it's done in the comics and it works because New York's part of the dark dimension, fucking, and all this other shit's going on during Devil's Reign. So it happens in the comics, sure, but not under the context of what happened in season 3. So if you're gonna tie your show to season 3 Daredevil, you can't then turn around and say, well, but it happened in the comics, because it happened completely different in the comics, and it's not tying into the source material that you chose to use and claim that is your source material for the show. And that's a lot of the same stuff with the Daredevil, like we're going backwards, and it's always to where he's no longer the hero, and now he's got to decide to be Daredevil again. So we're gonna get, the rumor is, and again, I'm not a rumor person at all, but just somebody I know really good that said somebody else said something that supposedly had access, claims he doesn't wear the suit until episode 6. So
I believe that's true. And I think if you look at Daredevil release.
No, Simon, you're a fucking idiot. I want comic accurate as in the story as it's told in order, not skipping ahead 40 years of source material to the fucking ending modern shit writing of source material.
Just like what they do in Star Wars when they bring shit in. It's like, you can't skip the iconography. We don't care about like the end result. It's more about the story that leads up to it, and that's why it's significant in the first place. It'd be like if they started if they made a live action Dragon Ball series and they were like, hey, look, he's a Super Saiyan in episode 3. Like, there were like hundreds of episodes and of story that made that matter. It's not about the image itself.
Well, the thing is, John Goat, so a lot of these modern writers, they just look at these characters as iconography as opposed to characters. So when you hear the Star Wars people talking about Mara Jade, all they have to say about her is she has red hair, full stop. And they never really stop to think about like the fact that she starts out as an Imperial assassin and then she becomes a Jedi and then she becomes Luke's wife and all that. They don't care about the character development. They just care about like the iconography, unless they decide to change that same iconography like they're doing with Punisher. So it's because like they don't actually read the source material. They're not fans.
Yeah.
Well, and again, they're skipping all the good. They're skipping all the good writers, you know. And the Punisher Netflix show, I'm not even a big fan of. Like the first season,
I like the first season.
is good. The second one's trash. Like he would have killed the dude at the end. Like he's just not the Punisher, right? He's some guy. And it's not that I don't like Bernthal's performance either, but the Punisher doesn't do talky feelings and all that shit. That's just not the way his character is presented 99% of the time in the comics.
Yeah, I think that Punisher in season 2 of Daredevil is fucking phenomenal, and I think that him in the first season of Netflix, it was good. Like I enjoyed the first season of Punisher. Was not a fan. I didn't even finish the second season just because I didn't like where they were going with it politically. So I gave up on that second season. But when talking about the episode 6, I believe that is true. I've also heard that as well from people who have seen the whole season, that he puts it on in episode 6. And I also think that might have something to do with the release schedule that we know of, which was a little bit different, right? Episode 1 and 2 dropped. Episode 3 drops on March 11th. Episode 4 drops on March 18th. And then you get episodes 5 and 6 in all in one on March 25th. So I do think that that's all going to kind of lead up to him then putting on the suit. And then we get, I guess, 10 episodes after that or something, right? It's supposed to be 16 episode season. So.
Yeah. What'd you think about the CG? Not to change.
It was awful.
It was terrible, right? It throws you right out in the beginning.
The opening fight scene. All right, here's what and spoiler alert, it's out there already. If you don't know, whatever. They pretty much, everybody basically fucking knew that this was happening anyway. But Foggy dies in episode 1. And not only does he die in episode 1, he dies about 20 minutes in. And I don't actually think Foggy's dead. I think that he's either faked his death or something. I don't think Foggy's actually dead. But he's presented dead in the show so far. Probably will be for a while if I had to guess. And the opening sequence is them leaving the office and going to the bar and doing a real quick, like, fucking fast forward. Hey, banter. Oh, by the way, like, here comes Bullseye and he kills a bunch of people and Foggy dies. I think that should have been a whole episode. I think because there's just too much missing.
Especially if you're trying to introduce a new audience or like integrate a new audience into the story.
Yeah, and I think Daredevil Born Again, its biggest strength is the fact that it's connected to the 3 Daredevil seasons, and its biggest weakness is that it's connected to the 3 Daredevil seasons, right? And what I mean by that is you can have immediately a ton of people interested and invested, but also that's the bar you have to get to, which is so much higher than anything that's been produced in the Disney MCU. So it's a very tough bar to achieve, but you have the advantage of getting people invested because of the work that was done on that Netflix show. And since it's been 6 or 7 years since we've seen these characters together, you can't just give us like 5 minutes of little back and forth. And 1, expect us to have any idea of what's going on in their fucking lives. And 2, to be really invested to that opening scene. I think it should have been an entire episode of them. Like, get a little, like, whatever, a stupid little court case, them helping people out, them helping the neighbor, like, blah, blah, blah. Matt in his old apartment. Get some understanding what went on between him and Karen. And then at the end of that episode, you have Bullseye come in, do all that shit. And that's how the first episode ends. I think that would have been way better because it's such whiplash for us to think that, okay, Matt was willing to stop being Daredevil because of this. I actually can believe that, but you have to give me more context about everything that's going on in these people's lives when this happens.
But in the
And-
writing, how do they trick him into not hearing his heartbeat? Like, what are we're gonna go with, oh, it happened in Winter Soldier with Nick Fury, like they slowed his heartbeat or something? Like, is that we're going through all those hoops to explain why
look,
Daredevil thinks he's dead?
I mean, look, they have those fucking whatever random poisonous fish thing that can basically almost kill people and slow them. Like, you can do that,
Pufferfish.
whatever, right? Yes, pufferfish, whatever. You could fucking come up with some stupid excuse, right? That I would be able to buy. But I can believe that Matt would, after 7 years since we saw him in season 3, I can believe that Matt would think that this is something that cost him whatever, and he doesn't have his friend to keep him grounded anymore. I can believe that he goes through an identity crisis and puts the mask down for a while. I can. But I have to do all of the reaching in order to justify that. I have to do a lot of assuming. They didn't tell it to me. They didn't show me these things. Because even the one little line, Matt's like, I didn't want to give you, or Foggy's like, I didn't want to give you an excuse. So that might imply that Foggy's wanted him to not be that guy anymore. And it would be the first time we've seen that. But I don't know. There's some stuff that I enjoyed, and anytime that Matt Murdock and Vincent D'Onofrio are speaking, I typically enjoy it. Like just them talking together specifically, I think is great. But it doesn't match. It doesn't fucking match up for 2 episodes. It's all we've seen, but it doesn't match up to the Netflix series. It's not even close right now. I don't necessarily think it'll get there either.
Story-wise, we were kind of talking about it backstage. I would go as far to argue that at least the Defender show, which was fucking terrible, pushed the fucking narrative forward, right? It like continued the storyline. It didn't go back and recycle shit from season 1 and 2, pull something from Punisher season 1, or like it continued the Hands and Elektra story and got you to Daredevil season 3. Where this just feels like you're taking steps back. And again, like you said, you now have to make all these justifications in your quote unquote headcanon to say how good it is. I would even argue before they leave the Hex, the first 3, 4, whatever episodes of WandaVision is a lot better than fucking this Daredevil born again shit, because it was actually intriguing, interesting. They seemed like they may be using source material, which they ended up not really doing. But at least, again, it was causing excitement, people to talk about shit. There wasn't a lot of shit to nitpick. And it was unique. It wasn't just like, hey, let's regurgitate some of the same shit some of the same shit someone else used that now we're going to steal and call our own.
Well, so based on what you described as some of those comic storylines, is the Hand, are they kind of like the what's the Lazarus Pit?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
League of Shadows. Are they like the League of Shadows of Marvel, basically?
Pretty much.
They're constantly reviving people with their, ancient magic and bringing up storylines like that. Because I knew Elektra was revived for Daredevil, and I know from the Arrow show, I don't know the comics as well, but they were just constantly reviving everybody left and right. Yeah, it was like infinite spawn points.
Yeah, it's like that, but they don't do it like continuously, like in the like there's not people constantly being resurrected in the comics like that.
Okay.
But they do use it, and again, so they have the Beast, which is the demonic entity that's the the spiritual leader of the Hand or whatever, and they get into that when you get to like Daredevil Shadowland, and that Daredevil turns evil. But again, it's because he's possessed, so you can do that correctly too, right? So like WandaVision, the biggest problem with WandaVision, it's all under her own free will. It should have been she's possessed by the elder god Chthon, which is the actual source material. If they do that if say they went on and they did Shadowland in the MCU, it would be okay if they didn't fuck it all up and then say, oh, it wasn't because of this possession. We changed it to do it this way and just make Matt a piece of shit, right?
Well, no, yeah, they would wait until the last 2 episodes and then have some random guy with sunglasses come in and be like, I am Chthon.
Yeah. Well, everybody in Shadowland, Daredevil kills fucking Bullseye. So, and he kills him the exact way that Bullseye kills Elektra in the Frank Miller comic run. So, but yeah, that's why Netflix is so, everything in Netflix Daredevil that people love, it's Frank Miller Daredevil or it's Marvel Knights. Now Garth Ennis,
I always
Daredevil.
The Daredevil show, pretty much, I mean, some parts of season 2 I feel like was less well received, but then Jessica Jones season 1 was also really awesome.
And that's derived off the source material. They used all of it, and then they freelanced season 2 and 3, and that's why.
Yeah, in season 2, Jessica Jones, I thought sucked.
Yeah, didn't it go for like 3 seasons? I don't even think I watched the third one. If there was,
yeah, season 1 is Alias Comics. It's Marvel Knights. It was like the second or third wave of the Marvel Knights line.
And then Luke Cage was like half a season was good until they offed Copperhead.
Yes. Yeah.
Cottonmouth.
Or Cottonmouth, yeah.
And I wouldn't be like, all confused. The Netflix shows are 9s. Like, nobody's saying that, but like, they're all pretty much all the Daredevils are like, I give season 1 and 2 10s, and I'd probably give season 3 like an 8. Punisher season 1 probably get like an 8.5 or something like that. Like, they're pretty solid. Defenders, like I said, was shit, but it's kind of essential if you want the story arc because it helps, otherwise you start Daredevil season 3, like what the fuck happened?
I was so fucking hyped for Defenders, man.
Yeah.
And I was really let down by it.
Yeah.
They had like one good scene, right?
I don't even hate Iron Fist as much as some other people do.
I don't either. I think the first season, like, again, story-wise and writing's good. The choreography wasn't as good, and the actor that plays Iron Fist is annoying as fuck, but...
Yeah, like, I didn't mind season 1. Season 2 goes off the fucking rails, and then giving the fist to Colleen, and like, all that stuff, right?
Well,
but I do think that when it comes to this show... My expectation is, and it really doesn't take a lot of reach to think of what I think they're going to do, is Daredevil slowly it embraces being Daredevil once again until he ultimately puts it on. And Kingpin, in the same way, embraces being the Kingpin. I think we're going to see him put Vanessa in her place. That would be my hope, right? That would be my hope of what we see, is him basically put Vanessa in her place, start taking everything back over, and truly be like the Kingpin that we were used to. If that doesn't happen, I'm probably going to think the season's shit. I guess they could do other things that makes me feel a different way. That's what I feel like they're setting it up for. But ultimately, we also need more payoff for bringing Karen and Foggy back than what we have right now. Like I said, I don't think Foggy's actually dead. You know this, Star Wars Marvel purist, that Foggy's been killed or faked being killed a couple times in comic books before. I think the address on either the bar or somewhere else was actually even a Easter egg to the episode or to the comic book where Foggy specifically does fake his own death.
I heard that. I didn't go back and watch it. But I did hear that. But again,
so I do think that's what they're going to do. But if this is all we get from Karen and Foggy, it's bullshit. It's complete and utter bullshit.
Well, they're supposed to be in season 2, but are they flashbacks? Like,
see, if season 1 is all just leading us back to getting Karen and Foggy again after taking them away for the whole season, I feel like if they like just show up in like the last episode or 2 or something, that's going to feel pretty cheap to me as well.
Well, they'll probably have her come back for the Frank Castle shit because they have, their friendship and relationship in the Netflix series. So it would make sense to like reconnect her with Frank Castle. But maybe instead of Matt, right? So we can fuck with him even more. But yeah, so like the new girl boss, that's, her name's under his and Murdoch and whatever, Kirsten, whatever her name is, that's straight out of Mark Waid, Daredevil.
Comic, right?
She's Mark Waid created, or Mark Waid, Daredevil. Daredevil's getting too light. Let's make it lighthearted, or it's getting too dark. Let's make it lighthearted. It was a fucking terrible comic run. Like Ann Nesenti's much better run. Shit, Kevin Smith better run. Like there's so many other better Daredevil runs that are out there. But and then they have the cop. Like I don't mind the retired cop that serves as like a private investigator because it helps set up some plot conveniences, right? Because he's going to find information out because he was a cop and this and that.
And lawyers do employ that is something that former cops do, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of helps. That actually helps keep moving the story forward. Whereas having this broad now telling him which cases they're going to do and this, like, that did not happen. Karen and Foggy never told Matt Murdock once what case they were and were not fucking doing, right? Like, he's the one running the show. So we're cucking him that way too, you know? I mean, it's just like a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. Like, it's just fucking really annoying.
I don't see Matt's character as that being done to him. What I see right now is from everything in the show, from his new apartment to his new office to the types of cases they've been working, to all of this, Matt has lost. Not only is he not Daredevil, he's not himself anymore. Right. And, you know, when you go through the loss of somebody who, what Foggy always was to me was Foggy was always somebody who did keep Matt grounded and reminded him of who he was. And he's lost that in his life now, or at least in my opinion, he thinks he's lost that. I think Foggy is alive, but like, I think they're going out of their way to show you that Matt, not only is he not Daredevil, he's not Matt anymore. And I hope what we see is him getting drawn back into that and embracing it fully. And even with like the cases and friction with the McDuffie or whoever it is that he works with, like, he's going to come to this realization that he's not doing what Foggy would have wanted him to do anymore. Things like that. You know what I mean? But we'll see. I don't know what happens.
I feel like they're borrowing from Punisher season 2. Also, now we have the shrink that Matt's banging is going to be the shrink of Wilson Fisk and Vanessa. So now it goes to the Billy Russo's banging his shrink. And like, I don't know. Again, I know it's not identical, but it's like, come on.
Whoa.
It's, hey, people are going to remember, hey, they kind of did something like that in Punisher season 2. Wow. Like, it's just cheap, man. I fucking can't stand it. Be
point
creative.
of order. This is the most important thing that they need to have in before the end of the season is Vanessa has amazing cleavage in Daredevil season 3 during that final fight. And so far, she's been completely covered up. This show is a 0 out of 10 so far.
Yeah.
And
another thing
Talking about what matters.
She watched
John,
Daredevil.
I guess you're participating in ranked jerkmate.
Yeah, she watched Daredevil beat the shit out of Kingpin and say, if you fucking implicate any of my friends, give my identity, I will fucking bury Vanessa and shit. So she saw all that and figured, hey, he's gone, you know, this, that. I might as well go fuck other dudes. Like, I don't know, man. They were like ride or die for each other in the series. I don't see them like now not being that way. It's just fucking weird. It's
well,
again,
I think the implication
it's
is
story.
that, well, okay, I think the implication from what we saw was that after Kingpin got shot by Echo, or what I think it was shot by Echo, after that and the miracle surgery that they did in some Marvel special presentation to show how he survived that and like all this shit, that she like was with him like by his bed the entire time, and he essentially just went off and abandoned everything. That feels like the implication to me is why they've grown far apart. But I guess we'll see in their therapy sessions together. Not so much that she just saw him get the shit kicked out of him and was like, I'm done with you. It feels like it happened. And that's one of the problems is we have this huge 7-year gap that as of now, I feel like that should have been the first thing you do when you have this big a gap in the story. You need to do these connecting pieces to show us and explain to us what has happened so we can properly contextualize all the things that are happening now instead of having to guess about it. And maybe they'll show it at some point, but I don't know.
I know you probably want to move on topics here in a minute, but what do you feel about the fight choreography? Because I feel that it's fucking just off. Like, I literally watched season 1 episodes 1 and 2, and then I watched Born Again, and then I continued and watched season 1 episodes 3 and 4, and it's just like it just feels fucking off, man. I don't know. So we really only have 2 fights
to dissect, and that is the opening one, which the CGI was so fucking distracting in that
Yes.
opening Daredevil swinging scene and him going across the rooftops and all that. I actually thought the choreography in and of itself, like the ideas that they brought to the Bullseye Daredevil fight, were fucking cool and awesome. Bullseye is like just fucking cool.
Yeah, it was cool peppering him with knives and stuff, but I feel
really
like
is.
I felt like I was watching wrestling though, with the way they were connecting the punches and stuff.
It looked a little off, that choreography and the desperate attempt to recreate the these kind of one-shot scenes and stuff. It looked a little off. But then the second one that we get, when he's just with those two cops and they're about to kill him and he goes off, there are reasons to have a bunch of jump cuts in between scenes, especially if it's like, say, Daredevil versus Kingpin, right? If it's Daredevil versus Vincent D'Onofrio, there's you can have some understanding why you have a bunch and a ton of fucking cuts in a fight scene. That one was way too cut to hell and edited up, when I thought they could have done a much better job of showing some smooth choreography in that specific instance. And it was just off-putting. It was brutal. I love the violence, but I don't think it was a well-executed fight scene, which used to be what this series was known for.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, especially when I did watch that end of season 3, like the 3-way fight with, Daredevil, Kingpin, Bullseye, and it was really cool. They move the camera and they communicate a lot in character in those same scenes. And I feel like the first Bullseye like fight scene didn't really live up to either one of those, the main Bullseye fights that were in season 3. It was very much abbreviated, and he wasn't nearly as creative. Like, he was ricocheting stuff off the walls or off the floor whenever he was facing Daredevil in the one in the office.
Oh yeah, paper clips, fucking staple. Like, I can't remember all the fights, but he was doing all that shit. And he even did that. The CG in the fucking Ben Affleck Daredevil is better than this shit. Like, what is going on?
There is some of it that was like him,
Right.
like it looked distractingly horrible. In the swinging scenes,
Looked like
it
some
was
of
very
the
bad.
early 2000s Spider-Man movement. Like, some of the shots in those are a little bit wonky with the rubbery looking body. Like, whenever he's fighting Venom as he's falling, it kind of looked like that, but it's Daredevil, which makes it more off-putting because he's not supposed to be like superhuman, like, or
He's just
we
supposed
just
to be
didn't need
swinging
to
off
see it.
fucking billy clubs.
yeah.
Like we just didn't need to see it, and it ended up being worse because we saw it. So if that's going to be the case, don't show it. And
Exactly. Yeah.
like, okay, if you had to rush it, it doesn't matter. Just don't show it. Just cut that part out.
Yeah, you could save some money probably too.
Just do a tight shot of him, like do a tight shot of him coming up to that edge of the rooftop and like landing there with like the moon in the background, and that's all we need to know, is that he's in his Daredevil get up and he hears something and he fucking takes off, as opposed to showing us this bullshit CGI. But
So basically, there's not one thing this show's done better than the Netflix show.
Well, it needs to bring something new, either take the character to a next level or something that's not like key jangling or, that's just living off the old. You need to either advance a character in a new way or bring in a new, something where you're adding to it rather than just leeching off of it. So, because you can
And
do
I
really
think
good
that's why they
leeching,
tried to do the CG. But again, if it ain't good, don't fucking add it. Like, what's the point?
I
Hey,
hear
look
it's
at
going
this
to suck
shitty
for at least
CG
4
we can throw in here.
episodes.
What's that, Biggles?
I said I heard it's going to suck for at least 4 episodes because they were like pushing stuff in like the first 4, and then it supposedly gets better after 5.
Here's the problem with that. What Disney Plus Marvel show gets better? Can you name any?
None.
Because it seems like they all progressively get worse.
If it's different writers or a different showrunner, then that could happen.
Like someone else takes over by episode 5, I think is what they told me, and that's why it gets better. Because they said before that there was just like a bunch of like stupid cuts, and then it gets better.
What I have heard is that these first several episodes are essentially the remnants of the first like 10 episodes that they filmed for this show, which is when Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio actually said, hey, like they went up and they went to the execs or production team or whatever. They said, hey, this doesn't work. This is garbage. This is bullshit. We have to do something else. And that's when they came in, replaced a bunch of people, molded what they had done in those first like 9 or 10 episodes that they filmed and kind of retooled it a little bit to fit in the first handful of episodes that we have here. And then and I think this is a 16 episode season or something. And then from what I've heard, it gets better, but I don't know any details about anything that happens. Those are just overall what I've heard. But I don't know. We'll see. It's not enough to make me be like, oh, this is dog shit. But it definitely doesn't hold up to the Netflix one so far. And I don't think it really ever has a hope to. Like, I feel like its best hope is to be a facsimile of the Netflix series. That's like the best thing we could get from it. But
personally, for me, like, I'm at this point, I'm not really that interested in it unless like when the season finishes up and I hear people saying it's good, because as Marvel purists just said, that most Disney Plus shows, they start out in a way that gets a lot of people hyped, and then by the end of it turns into garbage. And I'm worried that the same thing's going to happen here. But like you said, Ron, maybe it will, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, they could live off the old show and, just hit all the best hits, basically, and that would get it, like, probably an average or, above average rating from a lot of people. I'm just saying to, like, be worthwhile, I feel like you have to advance you can't just get them back to where they were or something. Like, because we see with, like, Star Wars and stuff, whenever you try to live completely off of the old, it eventually just runs out of steam. And so I hope that they try at least to add something and do it well.
That's the problem we're seeing a lot with Marvel. Like, they're having diminishing returns, and their whole, like, supposed solution is to just bring back the old guys, which, I mean, sure, that's going to give you a boost, but where do you go from there?
Yeah, you can't eat your own tail forever, so you got to eventually break out of that and, get out of the nostalgia cycle, kind of.
And I also wonder if they've like already, like, obviously we know people talk, these people are coming back for season 2, whatever. I do wonder a little bit because, like, I only see release dates for 9 episodes for this season, but I also know there's at least 16 episodes that have been done. So I don't know if those are counting a potential season 2, or if they're releasing it in 2 parts, or what they're doing. I'm not sure. So, but let's move on, because one thing we didn't get to talk about last week that I wanted to talk about, it isn't quite as relevant this week, but hell, it's always a little bit relevant. And that is Disney Star Wars. Let me catch up with these 2 super chats, so we'll get into that. Angst Kitten for 5. The CGI in Daredevil is so weird. At times I felt like I was watching Spider-Man. Does Disney even have people who can do practical effects anymore? No, and they apparently don't have people who can do visual effects either. So they're kind of at a loss. No practical effects, bad visual effects, and that's just the standard.
Just get the guys from the raid and do all that.
Jeremy's crushed toe for $5.
Oh my God.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
That's just how everybody's feet in Alabama looks.
All right, let's talk about Disney Star Wars. Obviously, the Kathleen Kennedy situation blew up like 2 weeks ago or something like that, when a new report came out. Look, we've heard for a million years, hey, she's going to be fired any day now. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are in a civil war, and they're taking her out, and Bob Chapek is going to do it. Now Bob Iger's going to do it. She's going to be fired, and blah, blah, blah. I never really believed any of that shit. I felt she was always going to leave whenever she was ready to. She is getting kind of old, and she's going to step down from her role as president of Lucasfilm. An article came out from a former Hollywood Reporter editor, and Matthew Filoni, who runs a website called Puck News, which he started several years ago. And he said, hey, guys, Kathleen Kennedy is going to step down as president of Lucasfilm by the end of the year, and that Disney's working on finding a successor, and they're planning on making the announcement sometime before the year is out. It actually got picked up by the trades, and a lot of people were talking about it. And Kathleen Kennedy was pissed enough that she came out and did an exclusive interview puff piece with a guy from Deadline, who spent the first 4 paragraphs slamming Matthew Filoni. How dare you say anything bad about Kathleen Kennedy? She's the best female executive we've ever seen in Hollywood. Must be a low bar if that's the best one we've seen, just to be quite honest with you. And basically said, this is all bullshit, and we're going to debunk this. And Kathleen Kennedy deserves to have her opportunity to talk about this. And Kathleen Kennedy went on to say, well, we're planning on finding my successor and announcing it by the end of the year. Which is basically exactly what the report said.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly what we all assumed.
Which is exactly what the report said. I guess one of the things that was in there is when people were putting headlines like Kathleen Kennedy to retire from Lucasfilm, like whatever, maybe there was an implication for some people that it meant Kathleen Kennedy who has been a producer, and her husband, Frank Marshall's a producer on a bunch of things, would never make a movie again in her entire life and would not be attached to any of the things she's currently involved with Star Wars. That's not really the perception I had. It was that she was stepping down from her role as president of Lucasfilm. But maybe some people did actually think that way. But that's essentially what happened. Was Kathleen Kennedy went out there, said this is ridiculous, but also, yes, this report that's out there is true. We're looking for my successor, and I'll be announcing it within the next several months up to a year out. Okay.
Yeah, my takeaway from it was somebody spoke out of turn or out of school, and it got leaked prematurely. Like she's going out on her terms, and that whole thing about, I'm still going to produce. Like, she may not be producing in the role as head of Lucasfilm, but I wouldn't be surprised if she's still involved in some capacity as, like a side producer and producing other movies outside of Star Wars and things like that. But now she's going out on her own terms.
Yeah, she's going to retire, and then she's going to get a bunch of awards, and everyone's going to say how great she is and how she tore down barriers for women in the entertainment industry, because apparently making Steven Spielberg coffee was a really impressive job.
Well, and if the next person is already at Lucasfilm, right? If that's who it is, if it's already somebody that works there, but then it doesn't fucking matter. There's not a single person that's working at Lucasfilm that if you told me that they would take over, that I would have any confidence that anything would change. Look at all of the things we've seen Dave Filoni work on. And yes, I know you have those people out there who want to desperately cling to this retarded notion that, well, Dave's not allowed to do these things because of Kathleen Kennedy. No, they're 100% in lockstep with each other, which is why he continued to get promoted by Kathleen Kennedy. Not by Disney. Disney wasn't promoting him. Kathleen Kennedy was promoting him and giving him more power to oversee all these different things. They are in lockstep. And based on what we've seen Dave Filoni produce, why would we think that him taking over would be better for Star Wars in any way, shape, or form?
Because he won the hand job competition that Bob Iger makes them do every year. And he beat Kathleen Kennedy this time. And that's why in 2026, he shall become the person in charge of Star Wars.
I mean, Biggles, strong women like Dave Filoni are really good at hand jobs.
Well, I just remember before Ahsoka,
that's what I hear.
Everybody was like, hey, this is finally the series where Filoni has full control, guys. And then Ahsoka came out. It sucked. And everybody was like, well, he didn't really have full control, though. Hang on.
Kathleen Kennedy wouldn't let him do this. Like, no. Ahsoka was Dave Filoni's wet dream come to life. And it was fucking awful.
And people flip-flopped hard on it. Like, well, if Sabine can move the cup at the end, that's okay. And then she's force pushing people fucking 300 yards and stuff. Like, she's more like, okay, so you have all the Rey haters, which I'm one of them, right? But you have these people that are like, if you just get rid of the sequels and, the John and Daves and the fucking Sam Witwer and it's anyone and their mother, right, is next best person, right? But honestly, if you're using the Disney lore, okay, fucking Sabine is more of a fucking strong whammon than Rey, because at least in their fucking own stupid ass bullshit fake lore, she's a Palpatine, right? So she has force sensitivity, where Sabine is a fucking nobody. So it's funny to watch the same people who now shit on the sequels, even though they loved them and deleted all their videos from back in the day. But they fucking now hate the sequels, but they're okay with Sabine now because, Dave Filoni made it. It's bullshit.
And the problem is I don't like Sabine as a character. I don't really like very much of many of the characters from Rebels in general. But the thing with Sabine is she doesn't need to be a Jedi. She doesn't need to be a Force user.
She's
Right?
already a Mandalorian.
Yeah, she's already a fucking Mandalorian. Why can't you just let her be a Mandalorian? But no, she has to show that in this misguided idea that. And look, the misguided idea was from George originally. This is a George idea back in an interview, I think before Empire Strikes Back even came out, where George basically said that
Anyone can
being a
use
Jedi
it.
is like a skill, right? It's if you practice enough, you can get good at it. Some people are a little bit better at it inherently, and it might not take them as long to learn it, but everyone can learn it. It's like a skill. Obviously, that was said a long time ago. George did say that. However, through the course of the development of the lore, through the course of the development leading up to the prequels, George changed that concept of the Force. And a lot of it centered around midichlorians, which you might not like midichlorians, but that is what it is. Yeah. It's part of the world, and it fucking matters. And it makes sense. But
he essentially changed it so, like in Star Wars, there's like that equivalent of Muggles, people who can't use the Force.
Yes, there are people who are Force sensitive. If your midichlorians aren't to a certain threshold, you will not be able to be a Force user. You will not be able to use the Force. You will not be able to be part of that. That's the bottom line. Period. End of story.
And that's the actual official lore that became lore, not the right. George was spitballing ideas as he's creating the series. And again, Filoni can't even be consistent with the shit, because then they do that with the Sabine, and then you get Bad Batch right after, where because in that it's anyone can use the Force, but then when you get back to Bad Batch and you got fake Asajj Ventress training Omega, it's some of us have, it's all about midichlorians again. So it's so fucking inconsistent. Again, they can't keep the original lore straight, and they sure as hell can't even keep their own lore straight.
By the way, Purist, I love that clip you keep showing in your videos of Filoni admitting that he didn't show the final cut of certain TCW.
Yeah. I've been looking for that for a long time. I'm not a TCW fan, so I didn't have the behind the scenes of TCW, but I finally fucking found it because I knew it existed. And that's what he started doing with all the projects. Because again, he was told by Pablo Hidalgo, like shit with, Jesus Christ, Eth Koth and stuff like that. He was corrected by, George's daughter about Dathomir and stuff, because he tried to take credit for that.
Maul. Yeah.
But he also, that's what he did. He started slipping things in post-production or things that he wanted to change that he didn't want George to see. He just waited because he knew once George saw the rough cut, they would say, okay, and then he'd add shit afterwards. And that's why I've been playing that clip a lot, because that's a good idea and outline of the snake that he really is.
Yeah, that comes from a behind the scenes interview for maybe the end of season 4, or I forget when they did Ahsoka's little arc where she leaves, right? And he was specifically talking about what they did at the end when she's walking away from the temple, and it had to do with the music that was playing and stuff. And look, I think that there are I think there's one side that sometimes thinks that George Lucas had absolutely nothing to do with any TCW things ever, which is not true at all. And I think there's some people that think George Lucas was the sole driving force behind every single thing that ever came out in the Clone Wars. That was also not true. Actually
George doesn't have a single writing credit for any episode.
Right. It is actually similar. I think that George was more involved in this than he was in the creation of a lot of things from the expanded universe and books or whatever. But it was in a similar fashion. It would be, he would approve like story arcs and sometimes even say what he wanted for certain stories. We know that. But he would approve story arcs that got brought to him. He'd kind of look at a work in progress, give his recommendations, and then move on.
Well, as far as the EU goes, 2 big points with the Force out of my notes I took for Dark Tide Ruin recently. As far as the Force goes that you guys were talking about, I remember a specific scene where Jaina talks about her time in Rogue Squadron, and she's saying like having people that don't have the Force and having that perspective actually gives her a valuable like kind of diversity of thought inside of that squadron, because she sees how people solve problems without the Force and how they think differently without the Force, because she was sort of raised with a lot of Jedi stuff, and now she's in a squadron with a lot of people that don't have that. And then also there's a conversation really close to the start where I think it's Corrin says to Mara Jade, he's like, "Oh, I'm no good at the telekinesis part of the Force," and I've noticed that in the few books that I've read of this. I'm only 3 books in, but there's sort of a lot more variation in the Force powers and what people are good at, what people are bad at, rather than just everybody following the same path to the same end line. We can all do mind tricks at the same time that we can do telekinesis. It's like, and it's just so much more interesting and more individual characters then, because you have people that think differently and are good at different things.
Yeah, Corran Horn, for example, like he's really good with telepathy and energy manipulation, but he's not really good with telekinesis. Whereas you have a character like Kip Duron, who's the complete opposite. He's a powerhouse in terms of telekinesis, but not very strong in terms of telepathy.
And you got Basketball Sean with the battle meditation.
Yes, yeah, and there's a great scene in I think it's in I, Jedi, and it's a time where Corran,
favorite book.
Yeah, well, it's a time where Corran is undercover with some pirates. He's on a mission to rescue his wife, blah blah blah. But he ends up having to face Rogue Squadron, and Tycho Selchu is out there, and he's like examining Tycho's mind and is like astounded by how Tycho's mind can work, and even how someone without the Force, because of the way his mind works and because of this process of elimination he does when he's tracking prey or when he's being tracked, like all these things, that like gives him a whole new perspective and respect for Tycho as a pilot, that he can do all of these things, Wedge as well, but just specifically about Tycho, without the additional Force benefits, which is pretty cool. But yeah. I think in that one, it's like he was looking in Tycho's mind, and Tycho is basically, if he was like tracking someone and following somebody, he basically had like 9 boxes where like, what could they do? Where could they go? What actions could they take? And by process of elimination of things that were around him and the fighter, and what he established was like the person's nature to do. He oftentimes could predict where they would end up being, which is cool.
So like a real world like psychoanalysis, instead of like using the Force for anything, he's sort of like reasoning it out as close to like what we would do.
Just reasoning it out, and then not that he's like reading someone's mind, but he's looking at as they're flying and gathering information as to, oh, he typically always jinx this way, he typically did, like things like that, you know. But yeah.
And then bringing up the Jaina stuff, John, it's funny because in Dark Tide Onslaught, you have Mara teaching on Dantooine, teaching Anakin that he needs to stop relying on the Force and shit. Right. That duology is super underrated, I think, man, because philosophically, like it really gets into the master and apprentice, using the Force, not using the Force. Like, man, it's pretty deep. Like
they get into it so I always think about that whenever I'm listening to these books. I'm like, this is so much more in depth than every fucking Disney lesson is just feel it, it's all around you, it's blah blah blah. I'm like, generic. They actually go in depth and get into moral quandaries of, well, what's a preemptive strike? Is that getting out of our role as peacemakers? How many can we kill to save how many lives before the Jedi become too aggressive? And that's like a whole schism in the Jedi Order at this point in the story. And then Anakin in that book, and then that gets further expanded on when Anakin's with I think his name's Chalco. He's like a smuggler type guy, kind of fills in for Han because Han's still drinking his way through Chewie's death at this point. And he's bringing up like, oh yeah, sorry. But that's the one thing I always hear about the EU whenever people are trashing us. That was the spoiler that I knew before I read anything. But whenever he's trying to track down another Jedi, Chalco's like, oh, I'm going to give this guy the tip because I know a bunch of refugees are going to be coming here. So I'm going to help him essentially exploit a housing crisis. And that'll get me some information to help track down this Jedi. And Anakin's like, oh, but that's evil and he's like, well, how evil is it? Because we can stop this person from using a super weapon and killing. Well, and also it's to track down someone who's trying to use a super weapon to kill millions. And so it's like, well, kid, I'm going to have a few more people are going to have a harder time getting an apartment, sure, but we're also going to potentially save millions. So where's your Force morality in that? And it's so much more in depth than in real situations.
New Jedi Order does a lot when it comes to the responsibilities, what Luke feels like his responsibility as the leader of the Jedi Order, and the idea of you know, when to attack, when to defend, how to attack, how to defend. Am I leading us to dark? Would a preemptive strike, would an aggressive motion, would that lead us to the path of darkness? And then, of course, as Jason is going through all of this too, which you'll get to eventually, Jason's perspective on the Force is queer as can be. I fucking hate Jason Solo until he becomes my favorite character in the entire universe. But like he ends up getting a vision about like the state of the galaxy and it kind of hanging in the balance. And he gets this imbalance point, ironically enough. And he gets so kind of petrified and scared that he'll affect that in some way. And that he'll make a mistake, that he basically is all about inaction, complete inaction, and is scared to use the Force. But yeah.
Hey, John,
and then he unleashes at the end of the book.
Hey, John, are you saying that you didn't feel like you didn't feel the insightfulness of that great episode of Ahsoka where Anakin shows up and he tells her, "Live or die"? Oh, it's just so complex.
I also enjoyed the very deep master-apprentice conversations with Sabine and Ahsoka where they said, I forget, it was like 4 words with long pauses in between and took up an entire scene.
They crossed their arms and said,
yes. It's like, does that bother you? Pause for 5 seconds. Perhaps. Pause for 5 seconds. Well, don't get bothered by it. Okay. Wow, guys. We did it. We did it, Oscar. Let's do it.
They were embracing Kurosawa, dude. They had wooden swords and fucking sake cups. Come on.
And Anakin
it's like so shallow by comparison. It's amazing.
And Anakin would rather appear as a Force ghost to Ahsoka, but not his own son.
Yeah, exactly. There's probably gonna be some kind of justification as to like where they're at and like because they're close to a Force nexus and some shit like that. It's probably gonna be some dumbass shit. But yes, the idea that we saw Anakin appear as a Force ghost to Ahsoka before we saw him appear to Luke is wild. But it is Dave Filoni to a T.
Somebody can just edit in like as Luke's, you know, doing all of his Last Jedi shit, the little Anakin ghost is just off to the side, like with a sandwich or something. Like, oh fuck, I missed all this. I had a lot of counseling to do. Oh damn, sorry, kid.
Now this is pod racing.
Joshua Anderson, Ryan hates TCW, but it's still part of George's canon.
I feel like we just talked about this.
If by George's you mean Lucasfilm canon, yeah, it is part of Lucasfilm prior to 2012 canon.
Yeah, TCW, it fits.
Unfortunately, it created a lot of problems because it's retarded and gay and stupid. And it also, to me, TCW is actually like an inflection point as to like warning signs for who was given what authority and power and how much that led to where we are now with Disney Star Wars. And you see a lot of the same problems pop up. I think 2008 TCW is irrevocably damaging to Star Wars as a whole. I thought that before 2012, and I still think that in 2025.
Yeah,
I'm here. I am.
TCW fits perfect with Disney canon. Like, fucking have it. It's great for you guys. You can have this convoluted, fucked up lore that contradicts.
It doesn't actually, Purist, because 2008 TCW doesn't even fit with the movies, right?
Well, that's
and
what
the
I'm
movies
saying.
are technically part of Disney's canon. So it doesn't fit with anything. That's the problem. It doesn't fit between episodes 2 and 3. It just doesn't.
Well, pretty much everybody knows episode 3 spoilers.
Especially how laughably stupid it gets at the end of, and I know all you dumb cocksuckers like to guzzle cum over the final season of Clone Wars with Ahsoka on Mandalore and all. That is so fucking dumb and retarded, and in no way did any of that shit happen. No way in the middle of Revenge of the Sith was this not mentioned that your former Padawan, who's not technically a Jedi anymore, is currently leading half a battalion of clone troopers to take on a former Sith Lord on a planet full of fucking warriors that he has taken over. There is no way that happened in the middle of Revenge of the Sith.
I missed that part in the Revenge of the Sith novelization.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
of Anakin talking to Mace Windu, and he's like, I think Palpatine might be the Sith Lord we're looking for. And then he's like, but also Darth Maul is alive and over on this planet over here. I feel like that would probably be worth mentioning if you're talking about trying to find a Sith Lord.
But all of it is, and this is what Dave Filoni does, all of it is using those things to desperately make you think and feel that Ahsoka is so important to everything. Her connection to Anakin, her talking with Obi-Wan, her being involved in this, and it's all happening at the same time. And the fact that, like, of all of these people out there, and sure, we do know there's a handful of survivors from Order 66, but look at the way Ahsoka survived and her fucking clone Rex. She's just such a good person that he's the one that fucking hesitated through all of this. He's the one that was able to do it because he cares so much about Ahsoka. Go fuck yourself. Fuck the character of Ahsoka. Fuck Dave Filoni.
The chip is stupid anyway.
Fuck the chip. Yeah.
And I'm just gonna say it. The TCW movie from 2008, it's worse than all three sequel movies. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Even
the worst thing about that,
even 10-year-old me who went to the theater with my dad to see it, even I, after it was over, looked at him and was like, "What the fuck was that?"
The worst thing about the 08, the Clone War movie, that was the deal breaker for Tartakovsky continuing the fucking 03 Clone Wars like TCW was supposed to do, because he wanted to make animated movies, and then they said no, and then they went and turned around and released TCW.
Tartakovsky's is so awesome too, and that
And
breaks canon in fun ways where it's like Mace Windu can fight an entire fucking droid army. I'm like, yeah, but I don't really care if that's like not whatever. It's a little over the top. It's fucking awesome.
Thing.
Yeah,
but like the core of what's going on, it actually leads from the end of episode 2 into episode 3.
Yes,
literally ends above Coruscant.
It introduces and establishes Grievous as a powerful foe who can just murk Jedi, as opposed to somebody who constantly gets fucking fooled by Padawans and shit.
He gets defeated by Gungans.
And Labyrinth of Evil does a great job of highlighting the same thing.
To all you TCW fanboys out there that just love that show and think it's so perfect, compare 03 Grievous, who's able to fight 5 masters by himself. Meanwhile, in TCW, he gets beaten by Gungans.
I've heard people argue, though, that, George made him a cuck in Revenge of the Sith, too, but he's already been injured. Like, that falls in line with George wanted him to have the coughing and all that shit, right? Occur from the end of the show.
Coughing in the Clone Wars show.
Showing that he's injured.
Yeah, where Mace Windu crushes his chest,
and also he doesn't get cucked. Like there's a reason that they sent Obi-Wan, the master of Surisu.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Obi-Wan is the perfect matchup against Grievous,
just like Mace is against Sidious.
Right? And so like there are reasons and more depth to a lot of these things that happen. And Obi-Wan manages to get the job done barely.
And I like what you said about all of the Sith Lords, Ryan, right? You have Maul, the warrior, you have Dooku, the fallen Jedi, and you have Grievous, the fucking android, right?
Yeah, all of these, all of the, all of the villains, these people we get in the first couple of episodes. That's why everyone's like, oh, we needed more Darth Maul. He shouldn't have been killed off. That's why I love TCW. They give him so much depth. No, it was never supposed to be that way, because like there's a purpose behind these things. Maul is just pure rage, right? That's who he is. He's just pure, unadulterated rage fucking warrior. He doesn't have a ton of force mastery. He was bred as a weapon to be a weapon. Ultimately, that's what Sidious wants to turn Vader into as well. But that's who Maul is, and that's what he embodies. That part of Anakin, that fucking rage that's inside Anakin. Dooku, obviously, is somebody who has been with the Jedi for a very long time. He doesn't agree with the way they operate. He doesn't agree with the way they do things, and he loses faith in the Jedi. He is a fallen Jedi. That's what we see Anakin go through as well. And of course, Grievous, even though he doesn't know it at the time, we don't see it at the time. Grievous is a not even half biological, less than half biological, but he's a biological monster fucking hybrid, right? Which is also what Anakin turns into. And so like that to me is like the purpose of these, 3 villains throughout this arc And Maul served exactly what purpose he was supposed to serve. And trying to turn him into some Machiavellian mastermind of all these things, it was so stupid. And it, more than anything, it destroyed death in Star Wars. And I know you can come at me with Knights of the Old Republic 2 and Darth Sion. You know, Darth Sion, basically we get the it's basically said he has so much rage in him and so much force power, he's just willing himself to stay together and not die.
Opposite of Padme.
It's a video game. It's a video game mechanic, and it's showed through a video game. However, it would feel very different if we saw Darth Sion literally cut in half and then like pull his body back together and be like, no, I'm angry enough to go. Right? That's not what we see. Right? We see, oh, we work down. He's got like some open scars and open wounds and things like that. But we tire him out. He fucking gets really angry and recharges. It's a completely different thing than showing somebody who has been cut in half, fallen several kilometers down an elevator shaft, lived on a garbage planet for fucking a decade, staying alive because he's too angry to whatever.
And ultimately bringing him back, what did that accomplish? Because he ultimately dies again anyway.
I was just going to
hands of the same guy.
Because you get to make hype moments like, guys, Maul's coming back in Rebels now. Hey, guys,
and none of
Maul's
that
coming.
None of that Maul shit compares to Shadowhunter, Lockdown. Fuck, any of the short stories on Maul in the EU are just fucking great, dude. Like, he's a much better character in all the other media.
I forgot how canonically correct Jedi power battles was too, because literally the easiest way to beat Maul in that game is to use Obi-Wan. All the other Jedi get their fucking asses kicked, and you can't find a goddamn opening. Adigalia, though, underrated. She has the fastest attack in that game.
Using her a lot. Yeah,
I was like, holy shit, this chick can just mow down all these droids. She swings her lightsaber so fast and has like a force shield that deflects all the lasers back. This chick's badass.
A Jedi's so powerful she died twice.
What was that
Shock
game
T?
name?
Or?
No, I'm talking about like
battles.
in the Obsession comics, Adigalia gets killed by General Grievous, which is then retconned, so Savage Opress kills her. Which, by the way, people say that Shadow the Hedgehog is an edgy name. Savage Opress.
Savage Opress, yes. Savage Opress, yes.
Well, who's died more, Ahsoka, Shock T, or Adigalia?
Well,
okay.
Yeah. Darth Ghostface, who was here for $10. I think the microphone on my headset is broken, so I can't rejoin the stream. Looks like I have to get a new headset to be able to hop on future community streams. I'll still be here watching. Well, thank you, Darth Ghostface. I'm sorry. Yeah, you were here, and you were like, it looked like you were trying to talk, but we just couldn't hear you, man. Unfortunately.
Yeah, he was asking in the private chat if his mic was working.
Yeah. So I'm sorry about that. But yeah, hopefully we can get it working for next month. Speaking of, we're already gone an hour and 42 minutes, so I think we are gonna call it there, guys.
So I want to show something real quick, Ryan.
Okay.
So I found a picture of my old room. Remember how last time I said I played this game nonstop over and over again? I had the poster on my wall. That's how much I fucking played that game.
Damn.
Man, that was all the way back before Star Wars fans hated black people, apparently. Right?
Yeah. Adigalia is black, by the way, the one I was just complimenting.
Yep. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
If you read Shatterpoint, the final battle is between two black people.
I do love that everyone's black on Mace Windu's home planet.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and they're like they live in tribes and shit. Yeah. That is true.
Real quick before we go, I had a question. The way the tiers of canon are supposed to work, if anything contradicts the movies, doesn't that technically make it not canon? The way
No. So, and this is one thing I also hate all the time. Like George Lucas, I've seen a lot of clips of George Lucas. I've never heard him once utter the word canon ever. Right? So when people say, "Oh, George Lucas says this isn't canon," none of that's true. Lucasfilm established hierarchies of canon. And that's how all the continuity was derived. So it essentially at the top, you have the movies. That is it, bottom line. If anything in any of the other material were to, at one point could have been in line with it, but then a movie comes out and it isn't, you would immediately defer to the movies. right? If you had, say, a book that came out in 1998 said, oh, by the way, Chewbacca fucking wasn't born until 1 year before A New Hope, which would have been stupid, right? But maybe something came out. Never happened, but what if that came out? Well, then once we would get, say, Revenge of the Sith and a Chewbacca appearance, that would obviously, you'd have to revert to the movies as the gold standard for what continuity truly is. And it would go down and down further. So the next, for a long time, the next level was books, comic books, what the right path in the video games were, right? So say Revan light side ending type of thing, like that would be in that next tier. Below that, you have other things like intentional non-canonical stories like Star Wars Infinities, alternate video game endings. Say in Revenge of the Sith, the ending you get when Anakin beats Obi-Wan and kills the Emperor, right?
The galaxy belongs to me.
Right, exactly. So you have a hierarchy of canon. Now TCW came along, and that created a problem because not only did it not line up with the movies, it didn't line up with things in the EU either. So they had to create a whole new level of hierarchy for their television canon that ended up sliding in between movie canon and G canon and all the other content, expanded universe content canon.
The thought bomb.
They changed the Mandalorians to be a bunch of pacifists who all just happen to look like members of the Hitler Youth Program.
By the way, I've noticed a pattern. It's very, I don't mean to bring up something new this late, but Filoni can't stop going back to the Mandalorian. Now that the show's literally called The Mandalorian, but the fucking trading of the Darksaber goes all the way back to the goddamn Clone Wars. They went all through Rebels. They went all through the Mandalorian. It was just like, it's back and forth with that fucking Mandalorian leadership through all of his series. He's obsessed with them, and they just keep getting worse each time. But
yeah, the Mandalorians were cucked by Dave Filoni to the point where Karen Travis left Lucasfilm writing.
Filoni cares so much about the women, guys. He cares so much they force a woman out.
He makes them leaders, and he makes them constantly fail as leaders. That's how much he cares about them. You got Mandalore bombed to shit. Way to go, Bo-Katan, you failure.
Just like
well, they wanted her to start retconning all her own shit too. So at least I give her credit for that. Put her foot down and said, "Fuck this, I'm out of here."
Filoni's a lot like Neil Druckmann, in which he says that he cares so much about women, but in order to get more power, he forces women out of the company. Which, by the way, it's such a shame. No Last of Us 3.
Yeah, sad days. Can't believe we didn't get to see their audience cut in half again, unfortunately. But that is going to do it for us. I'll go around the horn. Thanks to these guys for being here. I appreciate the hell out of them. Sorry we had to move the week, but it's still a good stream anyway. Star Wars Marvel Purist, what do you got going on, man?
Just dropped a video yesterday, George Lucas and the EU, part 2 of 4. Now, I'm not saying he created all the EU all on his own, but he did give a lot of direction and everything. There's a lot of misinformation out there, so took a bunch of stuff with some infographics I got from a buddy, gathered interview stuff, and this one's about LucasArts, the Republic Comics, and Star Wars Galaxies. So we have that one out, and then on Thursday, Monday I'm doing my normal stream. I try 8 p.m. Central. Usually it's 9. And then on Thursday, I'm going to have Matt Wilkins and United Spacers Alliance on to conclude our new Jedi Order Dark Tide Onslaught book review. And then I'm going to try to pick up the pace on those and do one of those every 3 or 4 weeks. And then Uncanny X-Force Part 2 for Pure Unadulterated Marvel is going to be, I believe, Monday after next. And then I'll probably throw in some Punisher 2005, throwing people through wood chippers and electrocuting them with eels and shit like that. We've been doing that on the gaming streams. So check out the channel. We got I do all different kinds of shit. So thanks for having me on again.
Of course, man. Go check it out. Lore Master Chris, you got anything going on?
Not much. I'm still reeling from a bad sinus infection that I got last month. I thought I was going to die for a minute, but I'm doing a lot better now. Other than that, I've started watching Cobra Kai because Ryan kept recommending it, and so far it's pretty good.
I love Cobra Kai. It's fucking awesome. It's a
Such a
difficult
good
thing
show.
to do, especially like now to go back to some of these characters that people care so much about and sometimes show their flaws and things. It's a difficult line to walk. I think they nailed it.
I saw the episode where Johnny like forces the kids into the cement truck. I'm just like, is this safe?
No,
No.
it's Cobra fucking Kai, bro. Got to work together.
Cobra Kai never dies.
While the stupid fucking queer ass Miyagi-Dos are out there balancing on a stupid board, Johnny's got these motherfuckers in the cement truck. Yeah. Gabriel Knight, got anything going on, man?
Nope, just here to hang out. Thanks for having me on. And like I say, I'm pretty pumped for March Madness this week, so gonna be watching a lot of basketball.
Hell yeah. One of the best times of the year. Biggles, what do you got going on, buddy?
I'm just playing Monster Hunter Wilds and the Cold Steel franchise on my channel. It's in the chat. And then I talk anime on Mondays. But I'm in a whole new room right now, so I'm moving. Who knows when? But right now I'm all by myself in a whole new place. So for like 4 months.
I feel you, man. Movie sucks, especially getting your new setup, which I've done nothing with. So yes, I hear you. Thanks for being here, buddy, and thanks for always putting the links in the chat and all that good stuff. Sir Reefer, what you got going on, buddy?
Oh, nothing. Just been watching the WBC qualifiers. That shit's more entertaining than spring training at this point.
Are you gonna watch the Dodgers and Cubs in Japan in like a week from now?
Probably.
Japan loves their baseball.
Oh yeah, that's why they put VTubers in LA.
John Getz in his normal setup. What's up, man? What do you got going on?
Well, I'm going to try to get out, hopefully at least by tomorrow, the new Jedi Order Dark Tide Ruin review and sort of retrospective, because it is my first time experiencing any of those books. And then I believe Purist is having me on for the next one in the series, or possibly 2 from that, which I have started the next one, the Agents of Chaos Heroes Trial, which is the next duology in that series. But I'm just like recording lines, editing together the Ruin review right now. So hopefully have that out soon, and then getting into some Monster Hunter Wilds. Just finished Legend of Dragoon, which was surprisingly like a friggin' awesome game. If you need a hype gaming soundtrack, listen to Darts' theme from that, because it's fucking awesome. And yeah, that's mainly what I'm working on right now.
There you go. Hell yeah, go check him out. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I will be going live probably in about 2 hours or so over on the main channel for the normal Sunday stream. We will do this again. Hopefully I can actually stick to the date this time. You know what? We should probably just do it on March 30th. That's probably the right day to do it. So that's 1, 2, 3 weeks from now. So a little bit sooner than we normally do it, but I think it will work. I think it'll work. March 30th, we'll be back 2 o'clock right here on this channel. Thanks, everybody. Take a power nap if you're fucking reeling from daylight savings time. It's just one day. You'll get over it. All right, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
So long,
Later.
boys.
Later.